Okay, so when I was in college, it's like early college, like 2001, 2002 college, right? So I'm like young V, right? Like trying to bang all the soccer girl captains and whatever. So I'm English class, right? And I have this English group, and we got to go off campus to go um, talk about our project or some shit, right? So group project, right? And so I'm in this group and we're talking about whatever, and I kind of like trail off and I go, oh yeah, I'm looking for an apartment right now. I go, but the thing is the only place that I've been able to found that's in my price range is near this park where the gays have all their tea parties. And so the guy in our group, he goes, well, I'm queer and I've never heard of that. And of course I'm like, oh, and like at the first, like I was like, that probably wasn't a good thing to say. But then he didn't get offended, and like I was like, can I keep saying like the gays? Can I keep saying that phrase, the gays? But
You can say
I don't
whatever you
know.
want, especially to the gays, because you know they can't fight.
Yeah, that's right. You get what I
Actually, I'm
get?
trying to think. Are there any like openly gay UFC fighters? I don't even think there is one.
I don't know. I don't know
I
much.
Yeah, I don't watch UFC. You'd have to tell me. The thing with the UFC is I think all of them are at least a little gay. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
it's cool for the first 30 seconds, maybe a minute, when they're really wailing on each other. But then when it becomes, you know, when they fall to the floor and they're both tired and they're just trying to hang on with that last little bit of strength, that's when I kind of tune out because it gets
Yeah.
a little gay at that point.
Yeah.
But I get it. It's very hard to fight for that long,
Yeah.
for a long period of
Yeah.
time. So I get it.
There's definitely a point in any kind of wrestling like that, or I guess like where your bodies are intertwined. There's a point that you will definitely touch dicks, like there's a point that that's going to happen.
Yeah, like, well,
They'll measure up or they'll line up at some point, and you'll touch Peters.
so the thing is,
what would you do if we touched penises in the octagon?
and then you do just
I,
kidding.
I'm
But
doing that.
maybe-
You can't see me, but I'm doing the little the fingers together.
Well, just kidding. But maybe.
Yeah, that become the universal symbol where like you could look at your opponent across the cage, right? And you just kind of glare at him, and then you do this. You go,
It's coming. I'm coming for you. What if one of them is circumcised and one not? Do you think
oh, then
they
you'd have
doc-
to make like a neck thing, like maybe you could use your finger, your sweatshirt, right? Like there.
Yeah, I think it's actually there's a term for it. I believe it's called docking, right? When they put the penises together.
Docking. Yes, it's called
Yes.
docking.
And then
Yeah.
you kind of like sleeve. But one of them, from what I understand, is one of them has to be uncircumcised, so it's not for everybody.
Right.
It's just for certain gays. And I guess in that situation, whoever is the
Jake
uncircumcised.
Said, I didn't know docking was an MMA move.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
not. It's frowned
it's a-
upon. All right.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
you totally
it's a-
dock all this.
Forbidden jujitsu technique.
Ultimate move.
You got to get to 3rd degree black belt before they teach it to you.
Well, if you need to be taught how to do it, though, you know what I mean. Like, you've clearly not been on enough Craigslist random encounters, or what's it called?
Yeah.
No, there's another term. Casual encounters. That's what it was.
Casual encounters.
It's not
yeah.
there anymore because too many people were getting murdered.
Yeah, Backpage doesn't even exist in general anymore. There was too much human trafficking going on. Not that I would know anything about that.
Well, you know what? What's unfortunate is human trafficking and just general murder always ruins a good time. You know, everything,
Yeah.
all the good times come to an end when human trafficking gets involved. So
Yeah, that's a bummer. That's a bummer, dude.
Little human trafficking and all your fun goes out the window.
fuck around and you kidnap too many kids and turn them into sex slaves, and all of a sudden the police get involved, and it's no fun.
Yeah. Whoa, what's going on here?
Mike.
Hey,
asked,
I'm an American. I know my rights.
I thought this was America. I thought I could traffic children into the sex trade. No, Mike is asking if that's your new VR porn V. Human trafficking casual encounters, I guess.
I'd try it. I'd try it. I'd try it. I'll try anything once.
All of a sudden, a kid comes walking on the screen, like on Pokemon when you're trying to play with your Pokemon, and it comes slowly. You like click on the footprints or whatever to have it come out so you can take a picture. Except it's a kid comes walking out, and you're like, oh, I gotta turn this off and go pray or something.
Oh my, yeah. I think I need to call my parents.
Go kidnap some children.
And that's when the federales are watching, because once you plug into YouPorn Kids, that's when your IP gets logged.
Yeah.
So what?
I'm just picturing YouPorn Kids. It's the YouPorn logo, but it's all different colored letters.
It's written with crayon.
Yeah,
like Yahooligans. Like Yahooligans. Remember that? There was that was the kid version of Yahoo, and you'd go to Yahooligans chat, and it would just be a bunch of kids cybering or whatever. Remember when you were a kid, you do that, V?
Cyber? Did I cyber when I was a kid?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I cybered like a badass, dude. I was pro at cybering.
You want to hear something? Here's what I used to do when I would cyber. This was my favorite thing, my favorite gig, right? I was young too. I was a minor at the time, so there were probably some dudes, like if people were paying attention back then, like some dudes would have been in real big trouble, right? But these dudes, I would go onto a chat room and I would find somebody who was, like the Yahoo romance chat rooms or whatever. They had it broken down by state and everything, so you could meet people on there. I would go on and I'd find somebody, and it would be a dude, and I would have an ambiguous name, like it was T. Miller or something, and I would start talking to them, and I would never allude to the fact that I was a chick or a guy. I would be very ambiguous about it. And I would talk to him, and I would let him think that I was a chick, and I wouldn't correct him. So he would go on, and he'd be talking, and we'd be getting into it, and then all of a sudden, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm rubbing on your chest, and I'm stroking your dick, and I would get into all this stuff, and then all of a sudden he would say, oh, and then I'll reach down and I play with your pussy, and I'd be like, whoa, I don't have one of those. I'm a guy. And all of a sudden they would log off, block me. And the longer you could get it going, that this dude you'd get no satisfaction out of it other than laughing at the time or whatever. But you'd never get to know what was going through their head after that, other than to assume that they were having this huge conflict with their sexuality. And wondering where they went wrong in life, and is it because my uncle molested me, or what happened here? How did I turn out this way?
I used to do something similar back when Skype credits were a big thing on Skype, and you could just call anyone you wanted, and they weren't owned by Microsoft, so they didn't keep track of anything. We used to call this gay sex line called the manhole. And we would all get in a Skype call and we'd call the manhole, and it's just it's a gay sex line. So we'd have whoever had the highest pitched voice pretend to be a 15-year-old, and then another one of us would barge on like they were on the home phone and pretend to be their dad and run into the room and just start hitting them on the phone, these guys. Oh, son of mine's gonna be a queer, and we just hit our microphones like if someone was getting punched.
Oh, there was a dude one time. I can't top that story, but there was this dude one time. A buddy of mine. He's no longer with us. He committed suicide some years ago. But he and I used to sit on Yahoo chat and we'd goof off and mess around with people like that. But one time somebody said that they wanted us to degrade. It was one of those gay BDSM guys or whatever. He's like, I just want you guys to degrade me. Really just, call me a fag, call me a queer, call me names, really just bash on me or whatever. And I was like, nah, I can't get into that. Not that I had anything against it. I just didn't know where, if I would be able to perform in that, to that degree, what he wanted. And he said, I'll pay you. And I said, still, I was like, I don't want to get your hopes up. I'm going to be able to do a good job. And I was afraid of disappointing this gay guy, apparently. But then my friend Joey comes up and he's like, I'll do it. And he gets on there. And he's like, the dude's like, I'll send you, I forget how much it was, say $100 just for the sake of continuing the story. He said, I'll send you $100 on Western Union. And I said, oh, then Joey was like, yeah, I'll do it. And he hops on there and he just tears into this guy for an hour. And so then Joey gives him the name of the local Western Union, and he's like, "Oh, I totally made $100 in an hour." He's so excited. So we drive out to the Western Union. The dude stiffed him on the $100 and then blocked us.
Oh.
So Joey couldn't even get his money. He wasted it, which is not like that big of a deal. It's not like our time was really that valuable. But
no, that's he whored himself out. He didn't get paid to be a whore.
He got cheated for whoring.
Yeah, that's
I should have been a better
worse.
pimp. I was a terrible pimp back then, apparently.
Yeah, you're supposed to be, the whore is supposed to rob the John. Don't you know anything? I've been robbed by whores before. Have I told you about this when I was in Vegas?
I think you did, but it's a story that bears repeating because, we have new friends in the chat. And I'd love to hear it again. I remember this story. I do remember because it had something to do with a hand job or something, and then yeah. Go ahead. V.
Yeah, well, I was in Vegas. It was like after I'd gotten back from the army, like it was like I just gotten out of the army, and so I was like new to like being a civilian. And one of my buddies called me up, was like, "Let's go to Vegas." He was infantry. I was with him in Germany. He was an infantry dude, big black scary dude, but actually really nice, which is surprising because right, that's where how it goes. So he goes, "Let's go to Vegas." He lives in Vegas. I meet him out there, and it's like so boring. Like it's just boring. Like we do a lot of drugs and drink a lot, and that's like what you do, right? You get crazy in Vegas, and so of course I call the whores. I'm bored. I'm bored as shit. I call the whores, and as we know, I prefer the yellow. I prefer Asian women, and so I call this one, escort service. I go, "Send an Asian woman," blah blah blah. And so they send this chick, and she's not Asian, right? I open the door, and I'm like, "You're not Asian." You're not Asian. And she's like, "Can I come in though?" And I was like, "No, I didn't call for a non-Asian girl, right?" So she's all like upset. She comes in. I let her in because she's like freaking out, and she goes, "I'll call." And she calls. She goes, "He asked for an Asian girl," and then she leaves, right? So now, like 2 hours later, I call them again, like, "Send an Asian girl." They still, like 2 hours later, they send somebody. And so this time, like I had been smoking weed at the time, like a lot of weed. Like my buddy, the guy that I was with, whose name I won't say, he was getting really into wax, they're called concentrates. And so we were smoking wax, right? And like so I was like stoned. And like in the hotel room, we had been smoking a lot of weed and like a lot of wax. So the whole room was just clouded of smoke, right? Like weed smoke, right? So finally the Asian girl shows up, and I open the door. I go, "Oh, it's a Asian girl this time, right?" So I let her in, right? I unrobe.
You should have been like, "Oh, sweet." And that's how I imagine it probably actually went down in your
eyes. Be like, "Oh, you're here." No, so.
Oh, me so horny. Oh.
So I unrobe, right? And I lay on the bed, right? Assuming that we're going to get down to business. And she's like getting so angry. She's like, "Oh, it smells like weed in here. It smells like pot so bad." And she goes, "My boyfriend is going to kill me." And I go, "What, dude?" First of all, like, why do you have a boyfriend? You're a prostitute, right? First of all.
What man, what self-respecting man hangs on to a girl like that? You know what I mean? Like if she's out at night with some pimp banging a bunch of dudes for money, like isn't there a point in your life where you're like, I could do better? I should do better with my life.
It's funny because like when she said that, like she was concerned about the pot, I was thinking your boyfriend should be concerned about more than just smelling like pot. You know what I mean?
He should be concerned with the AIDS.
The 80 dicks that you come home smelling like. But anyway, so I put my money on the counter, right, as you do. For those of you who aren't privy to the etiquette of paying for prostitution services, you leave the money by the lampstand, right, and then they get it after the deed, right? And so I did that, assuming that we were going to get down to business. So she's jerking me off, and she doesn't do anything, like nothing. I'm like, "Okay, let's get down to business," and she's like, "No, I'm not going to have sex with you." And I was like, "What, dude? I paid for sex, right?" And so I'm getting all mad, and she's jerking me off, and I'm not getting off. And so I'm getting angry, and she's getting angry. She goes, "I'm going to leave," right? And so she leaves, and I'm like all mad, like, "Whatever, stupid bitch." And then I realized, oh, she probably took that money. She took all the money on the counter. Of course she did, right? So that's not the worst part of it, right? The worst part is like I called another one, right? Because after that, I was like, well, this is not going to stand. Like I need like this. I need to get banged out of this, right? So So the last one shows up and she's Asian. She's kind of chubby, and I'm like, fuck it, whatever. Like at this point, I'll bang whatever. It didn't even have to be an Asian chick. I would have just banged her, right? And now this time, this girl's like price gouging me, like big time. Like like I give her the request, like the price that they go, the donation, right? $200. And I go, here, and in Vegas, they're more expensive. Like, mind you, like $200 is expensive, but not for Vegas standards. And like standards are pretty low in terms of like women there. So $200 is not going to get you like high class, right? So she's price gouging me. She's going, oh, well, if you want me to bang you, it's going to be a little bit more. And I'm like, fuck, dude, like whatever. She's like, I'll walk down to the ATM with you. And I'm like, God damn. So of course I go, right? Because at this point I'm like, I just want to be done with it. You know what I mean? I'm just like, let's just get this over with. So I shell out another $100. And I'll say this, she did bang me, and it was so good that like I couldn't move. I couldn't move after. Like have you ever banged and like your legs are like jello? Like you try to get up and you're all, you like wobble to the ground. Like that's how it was. Like this girl banged me like that to where I couldn't do anything. And then she left. And that was it. I was out like $900. Thankfully,
Jeez,
I had been up about 1,500, so I was good, like in terms of what I went home. Well, to be fair, I went home even. I broke even.
Yeah. Well, good.
I broke even, but I did get laid. I did bang a hooker, and I got robbed by one. So, yeah, that's
what I like to hear. Well, I like to hear that you go home even. I don't like to hear that you got robbed. But
yeah, no, I didn't go home penniless or anything.
So
I know
what were you gonna say, Stoneclaw?
Oh, I don't even remember what I was gonna say. It was something. Oh fuck, I already forgot. It was something during the story that would have been topical.
Yeah. Well, you just got to be louder.
Yeah.
Please just interrupt us because we'll talk forever.
Yeah, that's right. Tom's right.
We'll never stop. Like this is what we do. We're little fucking chatterboxes. So let's. I guess we can jump into the trio log. I got to remember. Right. I wrote down duo log, but really it's the trio log today. Whenever we have a third guest. Here's my observation. I called it observational humor, and then I realized they weren't funny.
Type 5?
Yeah, my type 5. My observational story. It's something about, and we got to talk about COVID because that's the thing, right? We got to talk. We got to give the same tired takes about the pandemic. But I realize, and this is a fun one. I don't think that there's enough stigma surrounding getting COVID, right? And we kind of just talked about this a little bit with the AIDS and HIV. I don't think that there's enough stigma surrounding it, and we should treat it like it's HIV or Hep C or, one of the disgusting diseases that you get where, like, I'm sure you've met somebody who has HIV and you're like, don't touch me. Don't like, and after you shake their hand, if you even do shake their hand, you like want to wash your hands or you touch any of their stuff. You don't want them riding in your car just because.
I do that with people normally.
Right. But you gotta, like, when people ride in your car, you like, if you find out that they have HIV, you have to go and get your like car detailed, and then you leave one of those bug bombs in your car. Even though it doesn't actually transfer that way, you're still like, better safe than sorry. I got to throw my raid bomb in here, make sure it kills all the Hep C. But I think if it were something that we treated as shameful or disgusting, people would be less likely to report it, right? They wouldn't want to go, and they wouldn't want to tell their friends, like, because right now it's kind of like a badge of honor. Oh, I got COVID. I'm going to be quarantined for 2 weeks. Oh, pray for me.
Like, what you're saying.
Yeah, like shame people who get COVID. Yeah. And
I'm big about shame. I'm big on shame.
Right. And this is why I figured you'd appreciate it. But yeah, they sit there and they're like, oh, I'm quarantined. Please pray for me. I don't know if I'm going to make it. This 99 point, I'm in the age group where I have a 99.98% chance of surviving it. However, I need you to think about me and keep me in your thoughts and prayers and shit. And so like they do it out of pity. But if it were you never hear somebody say, guys, I got bad news. I was just diagnosed with HIV. Like as HIV, you don't hear that because nobody wants to admit that. So I think if we shame COVID-19, people will be less likely to brag. Well, they won't brag about it probably. But then also, if you get a little sniffle, like when people get sniffles or their throat starts hurting or they have like a dry cough, they immediately go and they get tested, right? And then the test has like 50% false positives, 50% false negatives. There's really no, and that doesn't add up to 100 in that way, but it's like the positives, 50% of them are false positives, and the negatives, 50% of them are false negatives. So whatever that middle ground is where it's accurate is far smaller than what it actually is. So I think when people go and they get tested for every sniffle and they happen to get one of the false positives, whether they have it or not, that amplifies the numbers. And then we end up with this pandemic type situation that we're in, where everyone's like, oh, we have 1,000 new cases today in Kentucky, or I don't know what the real number is. I don't listen
Outbreak
to the governor.
starring Dustin Hoffman.
Right, and LL Cool J, right? LL Cool B.
Yeah. Every time I think I have COVID, I just assume it's a hangover. I like it's I feel terrible. I have these flu-like symptoms. It has nothing to do with the fact that I just drank a fifth last night.
No, it's always COVID, and that's the excuse. Yeah, everything, like if ever there's a problem, you just blame it on COVID. But yeah, if people did that, the numbers would go down, and the whole thing would just phase out, and people would, because what are the flu numbers for this year? Like non-existent, because everyone's got COVID.
It's down 98%.
Oh well, there you go. There's the number. And then also, if you look at the numbers of like year to date for how many people have died this year, it's less than, we're on track to actually have less deaths this year than we had last year. And the year before and the year before. And over the last 7 years, I think there was like an increase of 1% deaths every year up until now. So if you were to use the logic of like, well, oh, more people are dying. Well, no, over the last 7 years, we've had an increase of 1% more deaths than the year before. So every year before, did we have a pandemic that we didn't account for? So anyways, that's my opinion on it. I also think that we should put like a biohazard sticker on their graves if they die of COVID, and their coffin. I think we should even in death, we must shame them. So you don't want you don't end up
at military graveyards, you know how they have like either a Star of David or a cross. You just give people the biohazard symbol made in stone.
Died of COVID. Oh, what a loser! What a total dork.
That's pretty good.
That's my opinion on the matter. V, what do you think about that? You said you can get behind that. What else you got for that?
For the biohazard, putting a biohazard.
How else can we shame people?
How else can we shame people about getting COVID?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if it's gonna be like, I mean, if we're making it like herpes, then shouldn't we just lie about it and say that it is like COVID is a sexually transmitted disease? Like if you get it, it's because you were having gay sex.
Yes. Only gay. What are the numbers for? Here's the rumor that will start. Yeah. In the gay community, men who have sex with men are 4 times as likely to contract COVID than anyone else. See? There we go. That's how you do it.
Numbers are there.
You got to go full DMX. Be like, how you gonna justify coughing on a man? I don't care if you beat it. I ain't touching your hand.
That's one of my favorite. Which one's that? Yeah. Where the hood at? Where the hood? That's how the song goes.
I love referring to rap songs as the old adage.
As ancient philosopher DMX once said. Yeah. My great grandpappy Ludacris.
I do that too, but I always say the late great, even if they're alive.
The late great Ludacris, who died of COVID. What a fucking loser! That's how you do it.
I don't know. Have you heard from him lately? How do you know he hasn't died of COVID?
Well, because he was at what's his face's 4th or 5th funeral, George Floyd. He was at the 4th or 5th one that they held for him. I saw him in the crowd. That's the only reason.
If you guys ever want something fun to do, just look up George Floyd merch. I saw like some really bad ones. It's just like a picture of him and it says "I can't breathe" in like MS Paint font on like a pajama suit, like a full onesie pajama suit.
On a pajama suit, like a onesie.
Yeah,
with the footies on them. Oh man, and like the back and the thing on the back where you can unbutton it to poop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, if it has that, I would definitely cop.
The poop flap.
back in the day when you used to have those because it was so cold out and you'd have to run out to the outhouse. And like, first of all, I don't know how many people this happens to, where like, I'm sure there are times where like, yeah, you ate something a little spicy and you wake up in the middle of the night and your stomach is grumbling, but it's not something that happens regularly. But these dudes back in like the 1800s, right, when you see the coal miners in them, they've got the butt flap. You know, like how often were these dudes like in the middle of the night, like in their pajamas, like, oh, I gotta go take a shit. Like they wake up and have to go shit in the outhouse.
That's not actually what it was for. You know that
it was for gay sex, right?
It was for transmitting COVID.
Yeah.
Well, that's
so that found each other.
Back out in the when they were sifting for gold or whatever, you know, you get bored when you're sifting for gold. I mean, there's only so much gold you can sift for before you have to take a break, take a butt pounding break.
Do you think the vibrant bug chasing scene has sort of expanded their reach to like willingly contracting COVID? Do you think that's like the hot new thing to do at the
if it'll help the election numbers?
Well, so I don't think. So that's tricky because what we know about the bug chaser community, which is more than anyone should know about the bug chaser community. Nobody should know anything about that community, but we do, and whatever.
Unfortunately.
What's done is done. These dudes, they wanted to get AIDS or HIV so that they didn't have to worry about getting HIV, right? Like it just eliminates the fear of contracting it. The thing with COVID is apparently you can get it again, as we've seen over the last year. Like some of the dudes from China who got rid of it got it again, but these are the motherfuckers who ate the bat in the first place. They're like the patient zero, right? Who ate the bat, got sick off of the initial wave, got over it, and then got it again because like China still hadn't gotten it together, which should have been some indicator that China hadn't actually cured COVID when they said that they did. But I digress. I think it would be just as stupid if the bug chasers were trying to get COVID just so they didn't have to worry about getting COVID. I think that would be just as stupid an idea as getting HIV so that they didn't have to worry about getting HIV. So
wasn't there that kid, remember that kid that like there was a kid that like he licked a toilet seat to like prove that he wouldn't get COVID, and then he like died of COVID. Remember that? It was like the COVID challenge. He licked a toilet seat. You don't remember?
Well, they were doing a lot of that stuff. They were doing the COVID parties and everything too, where they were like intentionally trying to get it, and they were saying who could get it. Who was the last one to get COVID was the loser or something. And like most of them were dying. People are dumb, man. Fucking bug chasers.
This whole thing has been going on for so long. There's so many like crazy funny stories about it. Like those guys that COVID turned them black. The reverse Michael Jackson.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah, it was I can't remember if it was Korea or China, but two like guys who were working in labs trying to develop a vaccine in over in Asia. Like they contracted it, and they showed like a picture of this Asian guy that was just looked like he was covered in charcoal on like a hospital bed.
You know what? I do remember that guy. I thought,
kidding me?
No, he was one of the original guys who like, because they were like celebrating him as like the forefront of the fight against COVID or whatever, right?
Right.
When you were describing it just now, like covered in charcoal, I was imagining somebody in a lab, you know, and they're mixing chemicals or whatever, and then it blows up in like a cartoon. It
like Beaker.
Exactly. But it's got like the spiked hair going all the way back, but it's all black.
It's always like that sound, you know? And the smoke, the cloud of smoke.
Right. Or like they're sitting behind the tailpipe and they turn the car on and all of a sudden and then they look at the camera, they like break the fourth wall, like, and you thought you had a shitty job, or there was like a mechanic. I don't remember any of that. I know it happens more often than enough to where I remember it, but yeah, that whole trope. So what else do we want to talk about? The Texas lawsuit, or would you just want to gloss over that? You guys are tracking that, right?
Talk about I thought you were gonna I thought for sure you would bring up that Eric Salwell guy.
Oh, you mean farty? Farty.
Yeah, Farty
Congressman
McFly.
Farty.
Yeah.
No, I heard. Yeah, let's talk about that instead because the Texas. Anyways,
Well, we
Texas.
talked about Chinese. We could have transitioned easily from COVID. This the Chinese spy that he banged. That there was a post that James Woods posted. It was like no Wang Wang and the Fang Fang. Because he was banging a spy. He was banging a Chinese, which I can't blame him for that. I could as easily have done the same thing.
When you're farting on national television, like you take what you can get anyways. So like when a Chinese spy tries to bat soup pot you, then you got to take it. You know, even if you know that she's a bat soup pot.
Is that the Chinese honeypot? The bat soup?
Good pussy can change a man's whole damn world.
Well, and then this dude, he ends up on. I would love to hear him talk about it and not fart. You know what I mean? Like, I want to hear his statement without farting. You know, he's like, well, as soon as I heard that she was actually a spy, I went ahead and cut her loose. And then somebody called him out. Well, like, you just cut that one loose. Like, nobody called him. And remember, he tried to blame that other dude, and everyone was trying to defend Eric Swalwell. What a turd. I hate that guy.
It was the most clearest fart I'd ever heard, ever.
Yeah, and like, no denying it either, because it wasn't like he was in the middle of a sentence and he didn't flinch. Like, if he didn't flinch and pause his thought or like his speech, I would have been like, oh, maybe it was on the other mic or whatever. But he stopped, lifted, and then continued again or whatever after the fart. So there's no way. Like, how did he time it off?
He pushed it out. You could clearly see the strain in his face as he pushed out the fart. That was what we saw. We dissected that. Like, remember?
We did.
Remember? We like sat down and analyzed. We're like, this dude clearly farted because you can see the expression on his face as he paused before the fart. Like, before it was clearly a fart sound.
How on earth do you? Yeah, you can't time.
You sat down and analyzed it like the Zapruder film.
Well, we were hired as the special counsel to us and me and V and 13 angry Republicans sat down and we spent $3 billion on, or 30 billion, however much it was. I don't remember how much they gave us to analyze the fart. Speaking of, Jamis is in the chat, and he asked if anyone else thought Tom looks like a humanized fart. And
good one.
Like to take it to the poll. If you think I look like a humanized fart, buy one of our T-shirts. Otherwise, you don't have to. If you don't think I look like a human fart, don't buy our T-shirts. And I will judge based off of the invoice that I get later on this month whether or not I do in fact look like a humanized fart. I do want to say something though real quick about the Texas lawsuit, because I will go into it and just say that 18 states have joined Texas in taking this case to the Supreme Court about how Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Pennsylvania fucked up the election and they didn't abide by the Constitution in their election. And I was talking to James about it last night, and he said, I said, well, Kentucky is on the list, so I don't have to sit down and like bow at the feet of Texas and say, oh, Texas, you fucking saved the republic, thank you so much, because Kentucky has joined. Daniel Cameron, I actually voted for the guy, so he's officially earned my vote that I gave him a couple years ago when I voted. But I said, whose name what state I don't see on the list? I don't see Wisconsin on the list because that's where James lives, right? I said, I don't see Wisconsin on the list. And he said, Wisconsin is one of the defendants. he's like, we're not going to join the list of people, prosecuting the state or whatever. And I said, well, they could, and then we got into this whole joke about how Wisconsin would be the prosecutor and the defense. And he would like run from one side of the courtroom to the other and put the mustache on when he's the prosecutor and take it off when he's the defense. And then come to find out he's also the judge. So he has to like run, like when he's like, objection, overruled, and then he's up in the stand and he puts on the robe and everything while he's trying to defend. And then he's the bailiff also. So he like takes him out of the courtroom in handcuffs. He's like, puts his hands out and then pretends to put handcuffs on himself. This is this whole shtick, but it's just Wisconsin in the courtroom. Also the jury, as if it was a criminal proceeding. It's not.
I love that bit. I love that bit, especially when he's found out, when the guy with the beard and mustache is found out, and they go, you're just the same guy, and he's like, No, I'm not.
oh my goodness, I have the wrong table.
Yeah.
And he like has to turn away and take his mustache off. Hey, it's
Yeah.
me. You know, oh, you just missed this other guy. He was here.
Yeah.
Like his Clark Kent of mustaches.
The mustache falls off mid spiel, and he has to like get on the ground and like try and grab it like Velma trying to grab her glasses off the ground.
He's crawling under the table, like the attorney's table, like trying to dig around to get it and put it back on. Or as it's falling off, he's like, "Counselor, what are you doing on the wrong side of the courtroom?" And he's like, "Huh," has to fix it real quick. You've turned my courtroom into a mockery, and it's just him again. So
Yeah.
this whole thing, it's all just so ridiculous.
We took
But
that bit so far.
that's like the sort of shenanigans I would expect from the judicial system in Wisconsin. I really don't have anything against the judicial system in Wisconsin, but it's the sort of shenanigans I would hope to see from just at this point in my life. I wish that sort of thing would happen so I could laugh. So what are we talking about today? We have some kind of there was some business in the news. V, did you want to tackle it?
Talking about, right? We're talking about Emperor Palpatine.
Well, he's a senator at this point, I believe, in the timeline.
Senator Palpatine.
Yeah, he's a senator. He's not quite become. This is a spoiler alert. I don't want to, spoil Star Wars Episode 3, A New Hope, or anything from 1977. If you haven't seen it yet, I apologize for spoiling this. But yeah, he. Yeah, Senator Palpatine, as it were, right now. Yeah, we're talking about that guy, and how I like when I did the description or whatever for Twitter, like somebody finally discloses aliens, and the best story that they could come up with about it was that it's just like something as boring as government. Like somehow the Israeli government found a way to turn something as exciting as disclosure of aliens into something as boring as, oh, well, they also, like, here's a civics lesson on aliens. Oh, gosh dang it. Like, come on. I would rather talk. Can we talk? Do they do anything? Can I talk about crime statistics of aliens, or just literally anything else about the alien species? Like what?
Ancient Israelians.
Well, that would certainly explain why. So, like, here's the connection there, right? Aliens built the pyramids, right? Aliens are also in cahoots with the modern Israel, right? So, what does that tell you about who built the pyramids? So, can we treat Ancient Aliens as a true documentary now? Can we at least accept that?
Yes. Is it like 6 degrees to Judaism or something?
We're trying not to. Oh, hold on, actually. There we go. We had to use it at some point.
We haven't used it in a while, yeah.
Yeah, I think the last time we used it was with, you know what? I believe it was Reinhardt was the last time we used it. Yeah. So yeah, we get somebody else from. By the way, anybody in the chat, we if you haven't already gleaned this from the conversation so far, we have Stoneclaw in the chat. He's our special guest today. He comes from Paranormies, which it's a podcast that you can kind of similar to ours, but way better and with a bigger fan base. I didn't say better fan base, but a bigger one certainly. Yeah. And then also Small Package Podcast, which is. It's a wrestling related podcast. Yeah. Stoneclaw, do you want to do like a real quick?
My baby.
All right.
Shill.
Oh, this is my shilling time. Well, I am on Paranormies. It's the podcast I've been on for fucking ever. You can find that at paranormies.com. And my little baby is the Small Package Podcast, which is me, Yakov, friend of the show, and our buddy Chris, going through the Monday Night Wars, where we started at the very beginning. We're going all the way to the eventual closing of WCW and going through every single horrible moment, because wrestling wasn't actually that great in the 90s, even though we thought it was.
Kidding.
Yeah.
Remember Mankind? He was awesome.
Yeah, Dude Love.
I'm still waiting. We haven't gotten to him yet. We're still in early 96, so it's horrible. You can find that. Yeah, no, he's not even, I don't even know where he is right now. I think he's in ECW, which unfortunately we aren't watching because it's harder to find. So you can find that on Spotify or on ExodusAmericanus.com. The official merchandise for it is teespring.com/store/Bradshaw's Tees, which also has my own designs on there. And mostly best way to get a hold of me is just Twitter.
His information is obviously right there on the screen. So if you want to, while you're here and while we're chatting, feel free to plug that in. He does, and I vouch for Stoneclaw. I think he's an underappreciated Twitter account. I find myself chuckling at his tweets often.
I put that in my bio, ironically, but a lot of people tell me it's true.
Yeah, it's the whole drunk driving bit was really funny for a long time. You know what I really thought was funny when you really won me over was when I happened to be on Skinwalker tapes one time, and you kept butting in. You would I call it calling in, but you would jump into the chat and you'd interrupt in the middle of like somebody talking, and you would say, "Hey, listen, I'm just trying to get my girlfriend a plane ticket to fly to the States. So if you could go to my website, teespring.com/story/Brad. Like you would do that whole thing. And then you would just cut out without talking to anybody. Like you just leave. It was just like a total, that interrupting cow joke. And I thought that was really funny. And I was like, this dude is all right. Like,
I should start doing that again. The t-shirt sales have drowned up.
Yeah. So yeah, buy some of his stuff. You used to do something else too. It was like the paranormal conundrum, or what was that thing?
What? I don't know what that is. I do creepypasta on YouTube.
That's the one. You want to talk about that? That's
mostly I just upload what I read on the Paranormies to YouTube for other people to find. It's Bradshaw's Creepy Compendium on YouTube.
I think I got like
500 subscribers. I just hit it, and when I promised when I did that I would have a regular upload schedule. So now I have to put shit up every week.
You know what's I like how you just dropped that. It's just got 500 followers or whatever. Like that's no big deal, but like we just hit 500 after like 3-4 years.
You guys just hit
of doing
6.
This. Oh, we just hit 6.
What are you talking about?
Well, we hit 500 like a month or two ago, and I had to take a shot of that hot sauce, and then I yacked all over the floor. But
I remember that because I downloaded that episode, which took fucking forever, and I isolated it, and then I accidentally deleted the clip when I was cleaning out my hard drive. So
yeah, that was a funny. Anytime somebody pukes, that's good entertainment. I don't even if it's me. Like if I puke, because I used to puke all the time, and anytime it's always funny to me.
If you want to drive ratings, then hold on, I'll go grab another beer.
Well, we don't have you on camera, so it's not as funny. I mean, people could be like, "Oh, he's just playing a puke soundboard." Yeah. like when I did that thing with James when he left because he had to go take a piss at the end of the show, and I edited in all the farting and pooping noises, and it was like the most graphic compilation of pooping and farting. And
nice.
Yeah, I wish I remember what episode that was because I would, if I remember, I'll post it later. Anyways, but yeah, we're talking about this dude. If I don't know if you've been living under a rock this week, but there was actually mention of a Galactic Federation. It's a dude named Haim Eshed, and he was Israel's space security chief for 30 years, part of his Israel security force. He confirmed the existence of a Galactic Federation of aliens. And
I'm looking up here. I don't see a picture of him. Do you have a picture of him by any chance?
As a matter of fact, I do. Let me see if I can pull it up here.
Hyman shit. His name's Hyman shit.
Haim Eshed. Big fat fibber, alien cuckold. He looks actually a lot like that, if I recall. Yeah. I'm not going to just take my word for it.
He's kind of making me think that spiky mullet variant might be coming back.
I think so too. I think Israel's always ahead of the times on fashion statements, so but it's not true at all. I don't think. I've never looked at a Jewish guy and thought, that's a
what are those called? A palindrome, where the thing is the same thing backwards.
Remember they used to call ISIS Daesh, and it used to piss the ISIS guys off because Daesh means douche or something. Like it sounds like douche, but it means and it kind of like means something similar. Anyways, they hated being called that, but yeah. So douche my eye. There we go. But he was told by the aliens, right? He's no longer in that position. The Space Security Council or Space Security Team. But he was told by the aliens that they couldn't disclose alien existence because it would cause mass hysteria, all right? And that humanity isn't ready. But here's what really, like, and this is all stuff that I'm sure you've heard already, like specifically Trump knew about it and he was about to disclose it, but the aliens approached Donald Trump. So this is like headlines that you never thought you'd see, and then in 2020 you see them and you're like, all right, okay. Yeah. But like, say 20 years ago, you read the headline, aliens the Galactic Federation approaches President Donald Trump and asks not to disclose their existence. That's something that 20 years ago you would have been like, what? But like this year you're like, all right. Even like 5 years
also
ago. Also
clearly the wrong guy to tell a secret to. Listen, folks, we've made contact with the Federation. They're not sending their best people.
No, these low energy aliens, they come here. Worst aliens ever. We've got the best aliens here on Earth. I'm just saying that we have the best aliens, and these aliens, low energy aliens, and frankly, I just next question. But no, I imagine it like the aliens are like, don't tell anybody, and he's like, yeah, I won't tell anybody. So what's the story here? And like all of a sudden you see aliens here on Earth, exclamation point, bad, all caps, exclamation point, hashtag rigged. And then it says this tweet about elections is disputed by the alien. This tweet about the Galactic Federation is disputed. But yeah, they have a base on Mars. We talked about underground bases, right? Apparently there's an underground base on Mars where humans and aliens coexist peacefully and they work together. Kind of like what we talked about with that dude some time ago, the underground tunnels, remember? He was talking about, this dude was like a terrestrial like co-inhabitor with the aliens. These are up on Mars. This is like a higher echelon of aliens apparently, because they're on Mars, which kind of like, again, I get a little bit curious about that because we're spending all this money, we're dumping all this money into NASA, and a lot of it we don't know where it goes, right? And this is where the flat Earth conspiracy comes in and all that. But we're dumping all this money into NASA to go to Mars when we're already there, according to this guy. So we're already.
Are we talking about an episode of the Orwell, or is this like a real thing?
This is a real thing. This is all. So let me clarify. This is all true. Orville, isn't that the Seth MacFarlane show?
Orville, is that what it is?
Yeah,
Orville.
I was like, Orwell. You mean H.G. Orwell? Is that the guy?
Is it Orville? Is it Orville, like Orville Redenbacher's? Is that the name of the show?
Yeah, I think it's called Orville. I never watched it, but it was like his knockoff of Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
But
so
yeah,
my joke. So what you're saying is my joke didn't land.
I'm saying your joke is true. Like, it's not a joke.
It's a real thing.
It's a real thing, according to this guy. According to Kenny Rogers.
Heimlich maneuver.
I'm not going to work here anymore. It doesn't matter. But they're on Mars. This explains Donald Trump's creation. Thank you. This explains his creation of the Space Force. And what's interesting is the Americans and the Israelis are already a member of this Galactic Federation, but those are the only ones that this dude mentioned. He didn't say, so like, we're part of an exclusive club already.
Wow, you're kidding.
Yeah, well, this is something like, he didn't say that, oh, by the way, Great Britain is a part of it, or oh, by the way, superpower Russian is. It's U.S.
Appreciate exclusivity, right?
Yeah. Well, but I don't, because you know me. I know you are as well. Very anti-government, and this is just another. As somebody brought up on Twitter the other day, when I released my open letter to the Galactic Federation, they
I remember that.
They said that. Does this mean I'm going to have to pay more taxes? Which I think, yes, it will. I think we're going to have to end up paying a state tax. You'll have these income tax returns. You have your state, your federal, and your galactic. And like, you have to go to H&R Space instead of H&R Block. So
Yeah, some
I hope
alien in your taxes.
yeah, and
You can't write that off. You can't write that off.
oh man, like I can't write off, but here's the thing. I'll admit, all right, I will admit I'd be willing to pay taxes if or pay a higher amount. Frankly, I don't pay taxes at all. Like I don't pay income tax because I don't work. All my income is non-taxable. But I would be willing to pay more when I spend money. You know how you have to pay the state taxes and your federal taxes and shit on products you buy and your property tax and all that bullshit. I would be willing to pay more taxes if it meant intergalactic travel. You know the ability to do so.
If you don't pay the space tax, how are they going to build the space roads?
Yeah. That's a good point.
There's going to be a bunch of potholes in space, and I'm going to be like, what the fuck? I'm paying all these space taxes, and they can't even fix the potholes in the road, in the space road. Yeah. These black holes in the space road. Oh, by the way, here's to intergalactic space travel at the expense of a higher tax rate when I buy fruits and vegetables and shit.
Good one.
Cheers. Oh.
We totally got into the. I realized I kept looking over at it and thinking I need to find a way to get that thing. Woo! That's a good one.
So,
I gotta say the Space Federation, the Galactic Federation. There's only one federation I care about, brother, and that's the World Wrestling Federation, premier of federations.
I like that you shoehorned in the brother. That makes it more potent.
You got to throw in a brother here and a brother there.
I dig that. Yeah, I could get behind that.
Well, isn't it no longer the World Wrestling? What is it not? It's no longer the Galactic
it's World
Federation.
Wrestling Entertainment. They switched it in like 2002.
Yeah, now it's the Galactic Entertainment is what it is. The Galactic Wrestling Entertainment.
It's also PG now.
What's that?
You can't have any crazy tentacle aliens doing tentacle things.
Ah, bummer. Kurt Eichenwald is going to be extremely disappointed.
Remember when wrestling they did that thing where they had the football and it had like strippers playing football?
Yeah,
remember
XFL,
yeah.
Well, the XFL was a completely different thing. There was lingerie football, and then there was the XFL, which was just like arena football, but they mic'd all the athletes so you could hear them like cuss.
I was just gonna reference that. Like, didn't that idea after they already did it?
You know what? I haven't even. I was muted for a second. I vaguely remember. They also had like better camera, right? Like they had the rig that kind of went down, so you could like follow a little closer, and like this is like before drones and shit. So I mean, they were kind of like ahead of their time.
Yeah, they were on all those lines.
Yeah, they were definitely ahead of their time. You know what? Mike in the chat said Trump will build a space wall, and the aliens are going to pay for it. So. with their technology, that's the thing, is they don't want to tell us, so there's something alarming about this, right? And nobody's talking about it. Like I watched so many videos, I read all the stories, all the additional commentary on it, and mostly everybody's saying the same thing, and they're all drawing highlights to like, oh, they told Donald Trump, oh, Israel and America are in on it, oh, they're not letting us have technology. They're willing to share their technology, but we need to do this, and this. It's because we're too violent, mass hysteria. Everybody's hitting all these talking points, which are good talking points. And for such a short story, like the interview was very short. The only part that translated to English from Hebrew, that's like the interesting shit. But everybody's hitting those talking points. But there was one specific thing that nobody's touching. And I don't know if it's because they're scared to talk about it or who's stopping them from talking about it. So we're going to talk about it. The excuse was humanity isn't ready, and we need to evolve to a point where we can understand not anything that like, you know, you would glean from it, but that we would understand what space is was what the guy says. He says what space is and what the aliens are, right? The space.
Isn't space just like dark matter?
So you would think, right? You would think that, okay, well, we have a pretty good, thanks, alien. I appreciate the fucking,
Yeah.
I appreciate you looking down your nose at us or whatever,
Yeah.
but we know what the fuck space is, all right? We've been studying it for thousands and thousands of years, like dating all the way back to the ancient philosophers of Greece or whatever. Like, we have shit from back then. We know what space is. Thank you very much. But so they say, they say that, and I wonder, like, then we get to the discussion again of flat Earth, right? These guys have some really crazy, kooky theories about, you've got the simulation theory. You've got that Earth is a globe, and like it's all just like this big computer or whatever, and a bunch of aliens and shit. And then you've got this concept of like, when they say we need to evolve to a point where we can understand what space is, what the spaceships are, what they are, and that sort of stuff. And that is alarming to me, and nobody's talking about it. Because what options are there? You know what I mean? Like, so we're not at a point of like, these guys are aliens or they're not. We're at we don't know what these guys are. We don't know, like, at all. We don't have whatever our grasp on it is. I assume these people who know about it. They know what it is. They know what these aliens are. They know what space is. But what we, the public, what we generally know space to be and what we generally know aliens to be is apparently wrong. So we're not even in the right wheelhouse. I'm sure these people have said, "Oh no, we know what you are. We know what space is. Here's our evidence of what we think space is, or what we've determined space to be, and here's what we would assume you guys are. How close are we?" And the aliens must have said, "Not at all," because they're like, "Well, you guys just don't. You're not evolved enough to know what we are, or understand what we are, or what space is." So, and what bothered me is nobody's talking about that. So, what is space like? Are we talking, and we could go theological with it. We could say, well, you look back at Dante Alighieri and his representation of Paradiso in the Divine Comedy, it was space. He talks about the angels and the saints are in space. They're like the stars and the celestial bodies in space. And that space is essentially the heavens. And, in Greek, the word for heavens, heaven, the heavens, and space are the same word. So it kind of got me onto that thought process. What do you think about that, V?
Touch on it. Do it. Yeah, well, when we get into the theological, I always have to push back because I'm not sold on it. So it's like it's like you're a kid and they tell you, heaven is in the sky, and then you get older and you go, well, the sky is clouds. Like, I don't see a kingdom up there or anything. So you kind of like, whatever. As far as like this alien stuff goes and us not understanding what they are, I guess I'm kind of in that camp. I guess I'm with that because I don't think humans are ready for that. Yeah. I mean, clearly.
I thought when you were saying, "Oh, why we're not ready," we were gonna go into some little thing about space racism, and we need to have hands across the world and all wrap
galaxy.
each other in warm little hugs and all unite before we can talk to the aliens.
Trust me when I say that Tom and I have had in-depth meetings about what the racial epithet is that we're going to refer to aliens as soon as they show up.
You've got to be that guy who, because guys like us, we're not going to be remembered for like historical feats. Like, you look back on history, you can name generally like one person per time period, right? Not necessarily, like maybe a handful of people from a time period. But otherwise, name 5 influential characters from Plato's time. I mean, you might be able to name 2, 3 maybe. That was a big time. Name some people who historically we know and scientifically and historically, quote unquote, we can prove existed at the time Jesus was alive, right? Cleopatra, Julius Caesar. That's pretty much it. Then you get to like think you might get a couple more. And even in the 1950s, we can name quite a few of them because that's more modern history. But at the same time, who are all the Joes that died on D-Day, right? You can't name any of them probably, unless it's a family member. So the guys like us, we're not going to be remembered in history for anything favorable. Probably, like the chances of us being remembered statistically, statistics are not in our favor.
Yeah.
So we need to be the guy.
Come up with a racial slur.
We need to be the guy who comes up with the racial slur and takes a stand against them space. Them.
See, I got no problem with these galactic folks. I just don't want none of them dating my daughter. That's how I right.
Right. You got to be the guy who does something so egregiously racist against the aliens, which was part of my thing with writing that letter to my open letter to the Galactic Federation that said, open letter from the desk of Thomas Miller, Hebron, Kentucky. Yeah. And then it says, you can suck a fart out of my asshole, and then it was signed by me. That way, like, if that letter, for whatever reason, reaches them, they're like, well, they found out about us, and the first thing that comes out is an open letter from a guy named Tom Miller who said that we can suck a fart.
It all comes in on fax on the mothership.
And it's like some nerdy like little intern alien comes up and he's like, guys, you're not gonna believe what just came through the fax machine. And they're still operating on fax. It's like they can travel, they can fly like across the galaxy, but they still receive shit on fax machines instead of like some kind of utilizing satellites or whatever, our own satellites that they can hack into my computer and shit.
I'm just thinking about alien racism now and how funny it would be. Like, imagine the Apollo 13 like lunar suits, but they're really pointy on the top, and like we have like a space clam. they put a burning cross on the moon.
And it doesn't like there's just a couple of us up there trying to light this cross on fire in the vacuum of space, and they're like,
it's not working.
We can't light this fire. We need oxygen. Oh, dang it! I knew we forgot something. We got to think about the fire tetrahedron. Like, we're super smart about setting fires, but we couldn't think to bring a dome with us and like an oxygen tank. Quick, unplug your tank and put it up next to it. Maybe we can start a fire. Like,
Merle died. He tried lighting the space cross on fire, and he ran out of oxygen.
And then we go back to our spaceship, and it's up on like cinder blocks, and we're like, I knew it. I knew them damn aliens was up to the thing. I knew it. 14% of aliens do 50% of the space crimes.
Oh no, don't do those numbers.
Hey, Jay Coop makes a good point here, Tom. He said, what would happen if the aliens took you up on the offer of sucking out a fart? Because what if
I think he called me out on that.
Kind of offer.
Somebody called me out on that.
This man is offering to let you suck out of his asshole, and you declined?
Well,
the
you know what? For the good
in their culture,
for the good of mankind, I would let it happen. And because I'm a man of my word, I gave them permission. I would, if they're like, listen, here's the deal, here's the thing. And you know what's fucked up is they would probably give me this whole sob story about how, like, in our culture, that is how we like greet one another, is we suck farts out of one another's assholes. And I'd be like, well, far be it from me to shit on your guys' culture. You guys are guests here. The least I could do is let you suck a fart out of my asshole. And then all of a sudden they do, and it's like a frat prank or whatever. Like, they have their rushes. They have to suck farts out of dudes' assholes, and they do it, and then they all start laughing, and they're like, we're just fucking with you. We don't actually do that, you fucking asshole. And then I'm like, the joke's on me. I totally did some gay stuff with aliens. But
what's even worse is, what if you have to suck the fart out of their ass?
Well, I did not give permission. I didn't give permission for that. I didn't say, hey, I'll suck a fart out of your guys' assholes. I said, you can suck a fart out of mine.
It's common courtesy. It's like shaking hands.
You're saying like,
and I got to shake his hand. Yeah.
You're saying as a like in order like
bends over and goes, now it's your turn.
What if unlike us carbon-based life forms, they're sulfur-based life forms, and it's just completely rancid, and you asphyxiate on their farts?
Well, I would probably I would hope that it's kind of like when you go in for surgery, right? And they give you that anesthetic where
or the anesthetic,
where you're awake and aware throughout the whole procedure, but you don't remember any of it later. So really, anything that happens, like, it doesn't matter. I would hope that that's what would happen. And then I come back to Earth. I wake up in the forest and I'm burping like fart smells for the next 2 weeks. It
bodes well with me that our topic has become the the type of farts and like the smell and like acidity and whatever of a fart.
What's the pH balance of an alien fart?
Yeah, that's our concern. That's what we talk about on this show.
Fart jokes are peak humor. I don't know if you realize this. Like, the funniest things in the world are the sound of a fart.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with that.
That's true.
Yeah, inclined to agree. Farts are funny.
What do you think an alien fart sounds like? Do you think it sounds like a human fart? I don't know, because like you see aliens and
what if it's like they fart but it sounds like a harp? Like it's just something
like a pretty sound.
Like a strum on a guitar when you strum a guitar.
It's like something that you could actually get down to a little bit. You're like, oh, he's playing classical music, and they're like, oh, that was just Jerry in the back. Yeah, he's over there. He ate beans earlier. He ate space beans.
Yeah, pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, Mike just said my luck would be they're Balchinians, and then VS said sounds like a scenario for an OnlyFans video. Let's get through these real quick. Tom, what happened if the aliens? I got one, the good old reliable. I want to make sure that we get all these fans in the chat. And while we're on the topic, I want to welcome to the chat Mike in Manitoba, Jay Coop, Justin, Isaac, Zane, Megabit, VS, and Jamis. I think Jamis probably already left. But once we started talking shit about him and about his dreams of XFL, of creating XFL again. But yeah, I think, you look at these videos, right, and these pictures of, the grays, the tall grays and the short grays, they don't have butt cheeks, right? They kind of have a flat butt. They're kind of most white women. They just have that flat butt. And if the anus is, it would have to be exposed to some degree, if it's even there. If it's on the butthole or on the butt, like where the butthole would be.
Or we assume that their butt would be.
How do we even know that they excrete that manner? Maybe they're just so busy with. Maybe that's how they power their spacecraft.
They consume all waste material. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's how they convert. They only eat enough that they would convert it to energy.
They're crystalline structures that don't have anuses, and if they do expel gas, it sounds like a free-form jazz sax solo.
And like. They're all disgusted by other aliens farting, but me, I'm like, damn, that sounds really good. Like, who's over there? What are you guys listening to? Alien radio?
What is that? What is that? Elven a piccolo? It's all.
Yeah, it's the ocarina of time. Every time somebody farts, and they end up transporting to other areas of the ship. And you're like, what just happened? Oh, he farted.
Good.
You need to change the name of this to "You Had Me at Alien Farts."
Yeah, well, you know what? I like to have it highbrow enough, like in the title, that people are like, "Oh, I'll go check that out." You had me at Galactic Federation. That sounds pretty interesting. And then they get here and they're like, "Oh, what's the pH balance of an alien fart? And what does it sound like?"
Yeah,
they're on the other.
Your lore build. You think you're gonna lay out this entire like governmental system of the Galactic Federation, and then they tune in and it's just.
Yeah, just a bunch of fart noises.
That's pretty much what we're going for. That sums up what we're going.
Yeah. Well, we do have some other things that we do have to cover. I think I even have a game ready.
But weren't we going to talk about Emperor Palpatine?
Yeah, well, that's what we're doing. And he's like, good, let the farts flow through you. Megabit says, in space, no one can hear you fart. That's a pretty good one. Mike in Manitoba says, I think it all goes to their head. That's why they're so huge. So that sometimes their heads are huge. And then every once in a while, like they sneak into the back room and they like lower their eye sockets and expel some of the gas so their head gets a little bit smaller. Like, oh, did you get a haircut, Jerry? Oh, as a matter of fact, I did. If alien farts sound like a harp, does that mean classical music sounds like a long sequence of farts to them? So yeah, if they're here, and that's how we beat the aliens, right? We're assuming that all this is true, right? Because we said it. But yeah, they show up here, and how you beat the aliens, if you need to make a quick getaway, is you turn on the radio. Always have a preset on your radio to the classical station or a classical CD, so you can like blare it. And then all of a sudden they're all like, "Oh, gross! Who's fucking farting?" And like you peel out and drive off.
Yeah, didn't we send all those like golden? They weren't like music discs. They were like the old style thing, and it's just a bunch of like famous recordings on it. they pick it up and it's like, what did the Earthling send us, Xandar? It's just a bunch of fart noises.
Mozart.
These guys are fucking with us. I think it's just they think it's a prank disc, like it's a prank call. They get the Voyager or whatever. What do they call it? It's not the Voyager. It's the one that they just sent out with a bunch of shit in it. All the speeches, like you said. Yeah, it was like the deep space probe or something.
What did Elon Musk put on that Tesla? Is what I want to know. What's in the CD changer of the Tesla he's sent to space?
It's a good question. Hopefully a copy of "You Had Me at Bigfoot's Greatest Hits." Yeah. This would be our chance for a commercial.
No, it's something hella lame like Chumbawamba or Moby, dude.
I get knocked down, and they're like, "Oh, this is worse than their fart music." Put the fart one back on. Let's listen. If we got to listen to something, as if they didn't prepare for like a light year journey or whatever, they fucking forgot to pack a CD player or an MP3 player. They're just like, put the fart one back in, please. So, and then Caleb Stoddard says, "One big fart for mankind." This is one big fart for man, one giant shit for mankind. That's how that would go. What would happen if? Oh, by the way, I wanted to ask about what do you guys think about the credibility of that source? Do you think that dude, like, I mean, hear me out, all right? He was Israel's space security. Let's put anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism to the side for a moment. The dude.
Oh, we have to do that?
Just for now. Okay, we can go back to it in a minute. But he was in a government position, head security position.
Because why would the government ever lie?
Well, he's no longer a part of the government. He left the government, and now he's like diming out the government, saying, "Hey, this is what they won't tell you." So now he's telling us. But here's the other thing, because this is not the first guy to do it. There was also a guy named Paul Hellyer. He was a former Canadian Minister of Defense, a member of Parliament, Minister of Transport, and the longest member of the Privy Council of Canada. Mike, you probably voted for this guy. I don't know if you vote for that kind of guy. I think he is actually appointed. But he said that these aliens, he talked about the same Galactic Federation. This is years ago. This is 2014, I believe. He talked about the same thing, the Galactic Federation. He said that the aliens didn't want to interact with us until we could sort out our issues that we have here on Earth, like the warring, the nukes, and all that, until we enter into that treaty, right?
His quote was, "They don't think we are good stewards of our planet."
Oh, he would be right.
Are we? We're not.
Right. Like, I can't disagree with the aliens as much as I want to disagree with the aliens. We're not. We're terrible stewards of our planet. He said that, and he said that the issue was we needed to end fracking and end fossil fuel use. And what was funny is the interview that I watched of him, it cut out at that point. Like, he was like, "Well, they won't interact with us until we end fracking and we stop using fossil fuel," and then it cuts out. Like, all of a sudden the government's like, "Nope. Cut this guy off. We're not ending fossil fuels. We're not stopping fracking. We're going to continue to use this shit." But he says that they communicate telepathically. So, like, if you really wanted to be contacted by these aliens in this Galactic Federation, all you have to do is make yourself appealing enough to them that they would reach out to you, because they have that ability. They communicate telepathically with people.
Make myself appealing, throw on a good cologne, nice shirt. Maybe they'll come and visit me.
Well, I don't know how.
What you're essentially telling me here is that my thoughts could be read by an alien right now. Like, you could have said, like, for lack of a better word, you could pray to an alien right now to come down. Like, if these aliens actually exist, right, then he can read my thoughts right now.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that would be a good way to put it, is and where we get again into that theological position where we don't know, we're not evolved enough to understand what space is and what aliens are and what spaceships are and all this bullshit. What if it were demons? What if it were
that sounds demonic when you say that they can read your thoughts.
So, and that was one of my big concerns with it. I was like, what are we dealing with here? Like, we're talking about some kind of individuals from another plane that we don't understand, that we don't have access to, who make themselves known to us on their terms, and can offer us things that we would like to have, but they need for us to change our lifestyle. That sounds a lot like angelic or demonic beings, right? Then also this other guy, Luis Elizondo, he was a former he was part of that Pentagon secret UFO unit that they just uncovered not too long ago, a couple years ago. He actually went on CNN, which granted CNN, I know it's fucking, it's basically the National Enquirer, but it's considered by the general population who doesn't know any better to be like the most trusted news source, and like at least a respected news source that would hopefully kind of vet their sources before they started putting anything out or entertaining something like right. So, and this guy, they have this Pentagon secret UFO program guy come on the show and talk about this, and he would, he was doing that classic, well, I can't really talk about that, I can't speak to that, I can't speak to this or whatever, but she kept prodding him, and I think ultimately she honeypotted him too, because she was a little cutie patootie, and she was she was doing the like batting her eyes and like spitting on her chest and like rubbing it in and all that, and glistening her boobs. She was doing the whole thing, trying to get him to admit. But he finally did admit to some degree that these UFOs were not from Earth, which is something that we know now. They fully disclosed it officially this year, and that we have been visited by something that they don't know what, and that they're actually here to study the fabric of the universe, which is silly. Like, of all the places in the universe, you pick a place that's inhabited by other people. Like, when you want to find something and discover something and learn more about something, you generally go somewhere where there's not somebody already, right? Like, if you're hunting, you don't go to an area where somebody else is hunting. That's pretty silly. You would go somewhere where there's not somebody, so you can go uninterrupted. So these guys are studying the fabric of the universe, where we are. Now,
that's
Mike,
interesting.
So what do you think about the credibility of these people? Would you based on their positions and based on where they come from and what they do, would you be willing to trust them based off of their background? Yes or no? We'll go with you.
This statement is no longer available due to violating the YouTube terms of service.
No, go ahead. We've already had the.
I don't believe it.
You don't believe these guys?
Yeah.
Do you believe in the aliens at all? Do you believe anything about aliens? What's your take on aliens?
When it comes, like, the thing is even on the paranormies, where we get into some pretty open waters with the topics we cover, I'm always the most skeptical person on there. I don't tend to believe anything until, I see enough. And it's just, if this one dude and then the other guy, Hellyer from Canada, says it, I don't know. It's just there's not enough for me to believe it. If it's somehow tied into even Bob Lazar, which surprisingly I believe him, but
didn't we do an episode on Bob Lazar?
We did, yeah. The space, or the pimp.
Yeah, he's the Steve Jobs of alien shit.
he's the Lean Six Sigma of pimping.
Yeah, there you go.
So what do you think, V? I know you and Stoneclaw here, you might as well go make out with your skepticism and your one Bigfoot for everything.
Well, he's in my camp because I'm skeptic as shit too. And it's funny because I believe Bob Lazar too. I think there was something there. He didn't have anything to gain. As for this guy, I know based on what I know information-wise is what you've told me. I'm a fan of Jewish women, but that doesn't mean that I'm trying to believe a Jew. You know what I mean? They go,
I'll fuck him, but I won't listen to him.
Yeah.
Basically just marriage anyways.
Show him the door in the morning.
Yeah, that's right.
Why don't you make like a plane and take off?
I think that here's the thing. Here's what I think about the aliens saying.
Why don't you make like Flight 93 and take off? Come on! Don't laugh at 9/11.
You should have done one of the Malaysian flights, either the one that disappeared or the one that got shot down.
I wanted to incorporate the Jew part with it because we're talking about Jewish women and
9/11
kicking a Jewish woman out of the bed. You got.
I think if the aliens are if what he says about them not thinking we're ready, I think if that's true, then I agree with that. I don't think we're ready at all. to deal. Well, I am ready. I'm kind of ready to see something. in general, anything that I've never seen before. That's the wanderlust, as they call it. But I think if this guy, this Hyman, what is Humana?
I'm not gonna work here anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. V, with all the types of women you've been talking about hooking up with this show, I'm afraid you're gonna try and sport fucking alien.
Oh, that's alright. We talked about that. As long as they have,
yeah, you're not ready.
if they have boobs, I'm gonna try to bang it. That's for sure.
What if the male of the species has the breasts?
Well,
does it have a butthole? Well, we've already disclosed the alien butthole. So when you bang a alien dude with boobs and in the butthole, and then afterwards your dick smells like sulfur, like, are you gonna feel bad about that?
No, that's a tough one. Well, I mean, we already had this discussion. There are certain things that we tell people, and there are certain things that we don't tell people, and there are certain things that you go onto your show and you go, "Yeah, I banged the Viet Guam chick." I totally banged it.
Having his flashbacks, his war flashbacks, his Agent Orange from the spray-on tan girl. I don't know.
Yeah.
Fellas, is it gay if they're from the Andromeda Galaxy?
You know what? Well, because it would be very androgynous. Androgynous. They'd have to come from the androgynous galaxy.
Good one.
Thank you. You teed me up for that one. All praise goes to Stoneclaw for that one. I appreciate the tee up. I was actually thinking about this the other day. I thought, is it... because when somebody called me out about having a fart sucked out of my asshole, maybe I thought about making the joke and I didn't actually make it. Something along the lines of, what is it gay to be prodded by an alien? Like, is the act of being prodded gay by an alien? If they don't have, because we obviously have our own genders, right? Male and female. Whoa, you're halfway there.
What?
When you're remember when you're listing the genders and you say one, whoa, we're halfway there. But we've got our genders, right? Yeah. And the aliens, they may actually have multiple genders, or they may only have one. Who knows? So would it technically be gay if an alien of another gender, because it's not going to be the same gender as us, would it be gay for a alien to probe us? If it's not gay necessarily for a woman to do a little butt play on a dude, I don't think that's gay. I think that's acceptable. But would it be gay? Well, I know how you feel about butt play.
I'm not into the butt stuff. That's where the poop comes from,
Well, I know you've done butt stuff in the past. I know for a fact with Burger King girl. So she could preserve rehash. But so I don't think it would be gay, even if it was the alien gender that provided the seed. If we were to define gender down to the basest form like that, we're like, well, technically that would be like a dude alien, but it's really not, because they have this whole other structure of genders that maybe we don't understand. So I don't think it would be gay.
It'd even be like a trisexual species where one gender provides the sperm, one provides the eggs, and then the other one carries it to term.
Yeah.
Like, you don't even know.
So who knows?
You got me into a conspiracy theory. What if all these people who were claimed to have been probed, they actually just had a night with some poppers in Boys Town, and they were too ashamed to admit it. They made up a story about a UFO.
Yeah. That happens.
I thought you were going to go a different direction with it and say all the people who claim these ridiculous genders are actually aliens. They're trying to pin it on that.
Planet Earth.
Well, it's not that I'm transgender. I'm actually an alien. That I would believe. I'd be more inclined to believe that somebody is an alien than they were born in the wrong human body. If you told me that, I'd probably think less ill thoughts of you.
I feel like I'd treat it, if I were going to bang it, I know we've had this discussion before. If I were going to bang an alien, I would treat it as if I was having sex with an object, not like a being, Like if anybody asked me if I had sex with an alien, I'd be like, well, yeah, you know, have you ever had sex with a fleshlight? You know, it's the same
Well, have you
thing.
ever had sex with a dog? Is the same? I mean, somebody could use the same argument if you were.
Well,
Fucking alien.
Oh, gross! You fucked a dog. Like, you know, it'd be the same thing. And then you have, and that's the thing too. We not only have space racists, right? We would have people who were like, "Oh, gross! You fucked an alien." But like, and then you have the progressive guys who are trying to fuck aliens, right? And it's not necessarily that politically they're progressive, but they're just sexually progressive, and they're like, I'm into banging. Like, I don't discriminate against somebody based on how many arms they have or how many tentacles they have protruding from their face. I don't discriminate based on that.
They call that pansexual, apparently.
Oh, you have to be pansexual to fuck an alien. Would you admit that you were pansexual?
To fuck an alien. That's what apparently. That's what. What's the guy from your Emperor Palpatine movie? The black dude?
Star Wars. Mace Windu.
Yeah. No, not Mace Windu. The other one.
Oh, I don't remember. I didn't watch the.
Do you think there was space racism against Mace Windu?
No. What was the other black guy? The other black guy.
I know who you're talking about. The other black guy in the galaxy.
Oh, Lando
Calrissian. Yeah. There's only 3 black guys in the galaxy, far away.
Lando definitely like banged every single race in that movie. You could just tell he was one of those like 1970s cool black guy that was on the down low.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, Billy D. That dude'll bang. He could bang anybody he wanted to.
Lando, the thing about him, he was a smooth operator. So, and he also wore interesting thing, and you know this if you watched what do you call it, the Family Guy Star Wars episode. They point out that when Lando is flying the Millennium Falcon at the end of Empire, he's actually wearing Han Solo's clothes, which raises a lot of questions now that we're talking about the sexual promiscuity.
So he banged Han Solo?
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Right. We're delving into this territory of like sexual promiscuity of Lando Calrissian and why he was wearing Han Solo's clothing. So
a topic.
There's only one. Yeah, there's only one. That's the thing. Is there's only one black guy per trilogy, per Star Wars trilogy in the galaxy. Lando, Mace Windu, and who's the fella from the new one?
Black Stormtrooper.
Kylo, not Kylo, but the other fella. Yeah. They've all got short names. I don't remember his name.
I watched it, but I forgot that I watched it because it was bad.
Fishburne? You talking about Lawrence Fishburne?
No, he's not in that movie. You're thinking of You're actually thinking of.
I know the actor's
Deep
name.
Blue Sea.
No, the actor was John Boyega. I just can't remember the character's name.
Oh, Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, you're thinking of You're thinking of I don't know. I don't have anything.
Half baked.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say Screwed because Norm Macdonald. I thought we could do a 6 degrees to Judaism. What you brought something up.
Wait, what? 6 degrees of Judaism, and you put the name Norm in there? Don't
No.
Good name of Norm Macdonald.
Well,
all right,
it would take 5 more steps to. We're friends of Norm Macdonald here on the show.
I love Norm Macdonald. Don't drag his name into the mud. He's my favorite comedian.
So, fan.
What V, you brought this up earlier. You hold a very strong position on this about people not being ready for disclosure or for aliens introducing themselves. What do you think would happen if aliens introduced themselves say today? All of a sudden, they decide, hey, it's too late. Some asshole in Israel went ahead and spilled the beans. We're gonna have to introduce ourselves, and I mean we might as well come out and we're gonna do this, and they do it the right way. They come in peace, and they're very friendly, and they're just like, hey, listen, here's the deal. From now on, we're not going to associate with you unless you meet these demands or whatever. How do you think people would react in general to the actual no shit, defined, proven, hey, we're here evidence of aliens? How do you think people would respond, and why do you think that we're not ready, V?
Well, I think the first thing, obviously, would be it would just like dominate the news, right? Like the first thing that would happen is like every bit of news that we're like all obsessed with right now would just disappear because aliens are. Then it would trend, right? It would start trending. So what's the next thing that happens when something trends? The fanatics come out, right? The fanatics, the ones that are like, oh, fucking. what's a famous person that we hate?
Alyssa Milano.
Alyssa Milano comes out. She tweets how like she worships aliens and she's gonna offer her whatever to them. And so then all of a sudden, all the good little automatons start following in suit. And now there's like a cult, or I don't want to say religion because I don't think that's the era, and they wouldn't want to associate it with religion. So it'd be something more weird, like Antifa. You know how it's like a group, you know. So
yeah, it's not
like,
a real thing. It's a
there'd definitely be like
it's
a
an
fanatic.
idea.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But then like I think after that, I think there'd probably be people out there that don't feel comfortable with it and maybe want to do something violent. I'm sure there'll be people like that, right? They're not cool with aliens. Personally, if it was me and I found out there were aliens like today, I you know what I'd do. We've had this discussion. First thing I'd do is I'd go, "Where's my superpower, dog?"
Right.
I'm supposed to have mutant powers by now. You guys failed me.
So you would bargain with them. You would be Doctor Strange. Dormammu, I've come to bargain with you.
Well, and it's funny that you say that. It's funny that you brought that up because I've recently, I've known this about myself for a long time, but I haven't really kind of like touched on it. And as I watch some of our old shows and listen to our conversations, I slowly realize, holy shit, that is true about myself, and that is that I am like the chaotic neutral. The chaotic neutral,
yeah, for sure.
Where I like take the side of whoever offers me the most money or however I'm going to get laid. Like if I'm going to get laid, I'll go with the wrong choice over the right choice. You know what I mean? So I think in this case with aliens, I probably would look for how it's going to benefit me in some way right away. Like right away, I'd be like, how can I make money or get laid out of this with aliens showing up?
All right.
That's
I like that.
do.
I think that's a good answer.
Yeah.
So do you think just you've made it clear. Let me just recap real quick. You think it would dominate the news cycle, and I have something to add to that. Dominate the news cycle, trend on Twitter, then the fanatics, the blue check marks on Twitter would take it over and start pushing some kind of radical agenda and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
And then you, totally ignorant to all not ignorant, you would be aware of it, but you would be not care about any of that. None of that would mean anything to you. Your goal would become, I need to take advantage of this situation to better my situation. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
But everybody else would probably be going fucking bananas, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I get it, and I agree with you on. I don't want to say what I want to say about that until after Stoneclaw's had a chance to talk about it. But I do want to say real quick while we're still kind of fresh from the conversation, because they brought some stuff up in the chat. VS mentioned the Yoda fleshlight. Let's go. He's still on the let's go. But then also Jay Coop answered our question. He said his name was Finn, the black guy from the second from the post trilogy. And then Mike in Manitoba said Luis Guzman was the name we were thinking of. and then Jay Coop confirmed, saying Guzman would have made a good stormtrooper, which I concur. I agree absolutely. Now, Stoneclaw, what's your opinion on that? I'll ask you the same question. What would happen if aliens introduced themselves? How would people react? Do you have any thoughts different than what V said, or do you concur with what he said?
I mean, I agree that it would dominate the news cycle. It would go trending. Me personally, is this gonna affect me in any way? Like, I don't want to go to the supermarket and have the cashier talk to me about aliens, and I have to just tell him, listen, I'm just trying to buy this rice and chicken, man. You just like stop.
Let me buy my booze.
I don't want them to be real, just because I don't want that in my life.
Okay, just try. Buy your bag of Doritos.
Yeah.
Listen, man, I just want my munchos, and I want to get the fuck out of here before I want to get back to my house, so I don't have to watch, because every TV, that every TV in the nation would be on a news channel talking about these aliens, and then you would have the talking heads, the fucking Anderson Cooper, the Rachel Maddows, the Tucker Carlson would be an interesting, because he's already talked about it.
Not forget Wolf Blitzer.
Yeah, old Wolf Blitzer with his not believing you when you went back in time to 2001, September 7th or whatever.
Anderson probably a fucking alien.
Well, he's a CIA agent. We know that much. And then
Same thing.
and yeah, and so how many aliens do you think exist within our intelligence agencies? That's a whole nother question that I would assume that quite a few of them do. So what you said about the news cycle was interesting to me, V, because I thought of that, how it associates with Donald Trump wanting to disclose it, right? We know that Donald Trump is a master manipulator of the news cycle. Like, this is what he does. And he's talked about it in all his books, how he utilizes the news against their will to get what he needs done. And he's very good at it, with whether it comes from, hey, I'll take a bad story about me if it gets my hotel some publicity, because they have no choice but to show my hotel while they're ripping on me. So that's going to draw some people in and be like, oh, that's a really pretty hotel. You know, like, I would definitely go there. I don't give a fuck about Donald Trump, but, you know. So he has a way. And then also when he puts one little minor spelling error in a tweet that he needs to be shared beyond Twitter. Sometimes he'll intentionally spell something wrong, and it's like glaringly obvious that it's not something he auto-corrected or whatever. It's something very obvious that he did intentionally, which I think serves as like it gives him the benefit of later being like, ha ha ha, got you motherfuckers. Who spells the wrong, you know?
I see aliens coming down, and they're like a Cthulhu-like race, and they have these like tendrils on their face. And when he's talking about them at a press conference, he kind of puts his hand in front of his mouth and like, jiggles them, and it makes the entire news cycle like that time he made fun of the dude with
the
MS.
retarded guy or whatever, when he's like, oh, he came at me like this,
because I think he just had like MS or something, but the retarded guy.
Oh, but what's funny is like he does that for everybody. He's like my uncle. My uncle's very like consistent with his impressions of people. He does the same impression for everybody. Like whether it's a guy, he'll be like, oh, I was talking to Marty down at the station, and he was like, and then he's like, oh, I went and talked to your grandma the other day, and I was trying to change her light bulb out, and she was talking about how the insurance company was taking her for a ride, and she's like, oh, these motherfuckers fucking taking me for a fucking ride, and he does the same impression for everybody. And I think Donald Trump does the same thing, how he's like, he's always talking about fucking goofy guys, and he's always like doing kind of a weird thing or whatever. And so when they picked on him about that, I was like, it could be, it could not be, I don't know, maybe he was, because I do it accidentally all the time. I'll mimic somebody unintentionally. But yeah, I agree with you. He'd probably do some, and then he came at me all fucking with this and then everyone's like, oh, he's making fun of space retards.
He looked disgusting in his spacesuit. Tendrils protruding.
Very disrespectful.
I was hoping that reference would come out.
I'm glad it did. Very good, Stoneclaw.
Yeah.
That is a good reference. I like when he did that for John McCain talking about the tumor protruding. Very disrespectful. So personally, I think he would I think that's probably what happened. I don't know when he learned about aliens. But I'm sure if we could pin down that moment in time, like when he learned about them and when the aliens said, don't talk about us, I'm sure we could tie it to a major event during his presidency that he would have liked to have commandeered the news cycle with that sort of information, or shortly thereafter, where like he learned about them and then he's like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna tell somebody, and then at that point, I'm sure it had something to do with, I don't even remember what specific events actually impacted him negatively. Maybe this year even. Maybe he was like, this is the year I need to draw some attention away from this whole COVID thing. And then the aliens are like, and that might be why this homeboy decided to come out with it now. But
well, there's that interview. There's that interview with his son that was supposed to air, and he asked him, Junior, right? Donald Trump Jr. Right. He goes, he's asking him all these tough questions, and he goes, "Are aliens real?" And then the Donald, he goes like this. He goes,
right? Yeah,
that's my favorite face ever. It's like
the dude from what's it called? No Country for Old Men, when he looks back at the guy like. He's like, it's just. He's like, don't put that in your pocket. If you put it in your pocket, it becomes just another quarter, which it is. And then he walks away. Yeah, that's that same look. No, I remember that. I do remember that. Chagrin. What is he dangerous compared to what? The bubonic plague? That's a good movie. All the Coen brothers movies are pretty spot on. They're pretty dang good.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
And then we kind of and here's the final question that I do want to pose to you guys. I think we've gotten about what I didn't actually have a game, but I do have a question that I think we can turn into a game, and I hope that we can enjoy this. And we've kind of covered it a little bit, but I don't want to speculate. I don't want you to think that I wasn't listening because I could guess what your answer would be, but I want to hear it from you. In the event of alien disclosure, who would you side with? Now, understand this. Here are your options, okay? It's almost like the Syrian Civil War, right? It's not like our Civil War that was like the Confederates versus the Union. It's more like the Syrian Civil War, where it's the U.S. and Russia versus Iran and Palestine versus Syria versus so-and-so. And like, all these different countries converging, and some of them to some degree work with one another towards one common goal, but on another goal they're actually enemies and they're separate in that way. So it's kind of a weird dynamic as far as who's with who, but we can reasonably assume in the beginning stages there's going to be three groups. There's going to be the people who, like you said, the fanatics, the people who are very big, like, hey, let's welcome them, let's show some love to our universal brothers, our galactic brothers here. Let's welcome them and pay for their tuition and shit. They're gonna be the guys that are just like, let's give them, like the liberals of our nation or whatever. Just give them everything. Let them in. Let them across our borders. Let's take care of them at the expense of the middle class, the working middle class. And then you're gonna have the guys who are very like conservative, like, hey, they need to earn their keep, but then when they realize that these aliens are not going to abide by that, they become something of a resistance. So there's the Tea Party against the aliens, right? And so we're the red sleeve or the red bandana on our sleeve of our leather jacket, resistance, fighting aliens and
Connors.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say Kyle Reese, I believe, was the character from Terminator Resistance who served as that individual. No, it wasn't. It was the other fellow, the robot that they sent back. Anyways, I digress. But
Sam Worthington.
That's the guy. I don't remember his name in the movie.
He's a good actor, though. Yeah, I like Sam Worthington.
I agree. He's a good dude. Did really well in that movie. And then, I believed he was a robot. But you have those guys who are fighting aliens, who don't want the aliens here, and who are willing to sabotage the insurgency, the alien insurgents, right?
Wait, no, that would be like a District 9 thing, right? District 9, where they're all... what do they call them?
The prawns? They call them prawns.
That's it. Prawns.
Well, that would be if they wanted to live here, and those were refugees because they crash landed. They were here because there was they accidentally landed here and they couldn't get back home, so they were like, we were taking care of them. These are aliens that have the ability to come and go as they please, and the more progressive liberals are welcoming them like, hey, stay as long as you want, come in, have some fucking meatloaf. And then you've got guys, the resistance and the insurgency, who's like sabotaging alien vehicles and commandeering them, stealing them, taking the parts and fucking with aliens and tripping them and tying their shoes together in the bathroom and shit. Like that sort of stuff. And then like ultimately killing aliens. And then you've got the neutrals, just like the true neutrals, like Stoneclaw said, just doesn't care. They're just like, well, this doesn't affect me. I don't want anything to do with this. Just let me go on about my day. As long as it doesn't affect me, I don't really have an opinion one way or the other. So those are the three camps that I think will exist probably right off the bat. Which one would you say you probably belong to, and why? And what would it take for you to switch switch parties that you'd belong to?
Well, okay, yeah. Again, remember what we've learned about me is that I'm the chaotic neutral. So all of those sides have an appeal to me if they're beneficial. So I guess to start with, well, because to achieve my goal, right, which I don't know if it would be to bang an alien or just to like figure out how to get superpowers, I would have to be able to get into that alien circle, right? So I'd have to figure out how I could get closest to them and then get the information or whatever it is that I need to do. So how would I go about that right away, like the fastest way possible? I'd have to probably get in with the fanatics, right? Because the fanatics they're like the fan club, right? There's somebody with a VIP pass that can get them to go see, you know, whatever Emperor Councilman Palpatine. I was trying to think of a lower rank in government. So
Mayor Palpatine.
City Comptroller Palpatine.
Yeah, City Comptroller. Yeah, so I get with City Comptroller Palpatine and I tell him that, like, you know, oh man, I'm right there with you. I like stroke the ego, you know, tell him how smart he is, and you're the one that, you know, the aliens this and that, and I'd play behind the scenes, you know, until I was able to get closer and closer, you know, whichever side I needed to get to get me to the aliens. And then, you know, once I got into the alien camp and I'm able to like negotiate with them, that's when I'd start working my magic, you know, because I am a negotiator. You know, I used to sell cars and I did human resources, so I know how to get people to do things, man. It's all about, even aliens, I'm sure I could figure out a way to negotiate with aliens. And in fact, that would probably be more of a drug than anything, is like negotiating with aliens. Like I'd come back, I'd call you on the phone, dude, and I'd be like, dude, check this out. I just negotiated a deal with the freaking prawns, or whatever, you know, racial epithet we come up with at the time. And I go, this is what we're gonna do, dude. This is how it's gonna work. And you know, they're gonna make sure that I'm rich and, you know, insert me into the matrix so I have, you know, whatever. You know, that's how I do it, basically.
Okay, so your thing is you would immediately right off the bat, because I have my theory. I think I was pretty spot on with what I thought about yours, and I think I have a good idea what Stoneclaw is going to say too. But what I will say is, let me recap real quick. You would manipulate your way into the inner circles of the aliens, become one of them, so that you could bang their women and get superpowers. Is the plan? Yeah. But your plan, the only flaw I see in your logic is, as we understand it right now, according to this Canadian Minister of Defense, is they have this telepathic ability, so they're able to read your mind. So that becomes a problem if your goal is to manipulate, and they can read your mind and they know what you're doing. Again, I feel like there would be an issue there, just because they would know your mind games, and they would, as soon as you're like, hey, so you're the alderman for the moon, let's have lunch together or whatever. He's like, I know what you're doing, and no, you can't come back to my home planet and fuck my sister. You know, like, it would be that sort of situation. That would be my only, but I don't know. We're operating off of the assumption that this Canadian Minister
I'd have to do like Batman type mental exercises. You know what I mean? You know, where Batman, like, he has to prepare his mind for like things that could happen to him in the event that he's like brainwashed, or like he has to prepare for like somebody that, like, you know, has telepathy. So I'd have to learn some sort of techniques, you know, to be like no mind, as they say, I guess.
You know, once I learned about all this, I started looking into like space flight simulators, because my goal is
EVE Online.
Right. you got to learn how to fly in space. So, like, granted, I enjoyed the game No Man's Sky, right? Even though with all its faults and shit, and how absolutely fucking boring it was, I kind of liked that game. I kind of liked the flying around and the landing on planets, and it's not like physics. I'm sure it's like not even close to what it really is, but it gives you kind of an idea. So I started studying. I actually started watching videos on how to fly a helicopter, right? How to fly different types of helicopters and fixed wing aircraft, shit like that. And how, you know, that sort of stuff. I kind of already knew how to fly a plane, as far as the mechanics of it, of how to land and all that stuff once you get to certain points. But I started like looking into flight simulators for space, because my goal is I'll be a part of the resistance gladly. And if I can steal an alien spacecraft and take it and go to the moon and take China's flag off the moon, that's my goal. And I had said this, I had said that a couple days before this disclosure happened, that my new goal in life was to get to the moon and remove China's flag. And then all of a sudden this disclosure thing happened, which I saw as like a sign of divine intervention of God saying, here you go. You know, I'm saying these are my original chosen people, the Jews, and they're giving you this information that you now have. What are you going to do with it? And I said, God, I read you loud and clear. I'm going to steal a spaceship and I'm going to go to the moon. I'm going to knock that damn flag over. And if I can, hurl it into the abyss of space. Or maybe just take it back home with me and burn it on YouTube and get a flag, get our copyrights, or get a flag on our account again.
That's an admirable endeavor.
But so Stoneclaw, I know you said you were true neutral, but I'm going to step yours up a little bit. I'm going to say that it does affect you. And here's how. Okay. I don't know enough about your politics, and I wouldn't want to assume based off of, because I don't know how much of your content is based in reality and how much of it is just for lulz. So I will say these guys, they are going to implement the galactic tax, and they're going to say, in order to and it's not even about, hey, these are the things that you as a middle class or lower middle class or upper middle class, wherever you fall in that, this is going to affect you, but you're not going to get any of the benefits of it. It's more because we want you to be better stewards of your planet. It's all this money, this galactic federal tax is going to go towards our travel expenses and our diplomacy expenses, as well as a kickback to our president, whatever. And then also we're going to mostly take care of your poor, and we're going to say again.
You were talking about their president, and I said Comptroller Palpatine.
Yeah, no. This would be the big guy. This would be Emperor Palpatine. This is this is years in the future, apparently.
Emperor
they're all Palpatine.
Every single one. They're just so unoriginal with their names. That it's kind of like Muhammad in the Islam, or in the Middle East in general. But he says, and also we're going to implement your Green New Deal that your princess AOC, because they don't know that she's not a princess. They think that like people in the House of Representatives who speak to their benefit are actually like royalty. So they're like, your princess AOC, or she proposed this Green New Deal, which would cut down on cows farting and shit. We're going to use that money to pay for that and for solar and wind power and shit and all this shit that's going to be just awful for you as a middle class, whatever. So that's what they're going to do to you. You are now affected by this. Okay. Which camp do you now belong to? Are you still true neutral? Are you resistance, or are you galactic federal?
I would be neutral at first, before any of this is announced. I could just see myself at the water cooler at work just saying, I thought ammo prices were bad under COVID, huh? And then once all this is announced, I would start preaching that the only answer to space 1984 is space 1776.
Yeah. I can agree with that.
I need to write that down because that's going to be your quote for the quote screen. The only answer to space 1984. So that would be your response. I
would join resistance.
Would be definitely resistance. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
I mean, I'd help you with the resistance. I
know you would. I certainly appreciate you jumping on the bandwagon now that everyone else.
Help.
Now
I'd
that
help
all the cool
you.
kids are.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't do it because that's what I believed in or anything. But I'd definitely help you, especially if you were like, "Hey, man, I'll get you laid if you just upset."
So what you're saying is, once you're found out once you go and talk to the alderman on the moon and he finds you out and he's like, hey, I know what you're doing. You're not going to bullshit me. You would all of a sudden like turn coat and be like, you call me from your sat phone on the moon and be like, hey man, so where are you guys meeting for your space clan meeting or whatever?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Very cool. I'll write that down. I'll just write down the quote, part of the quote, because I don't want to forget it. That was a pretty good quote. I don't mean to like inflate your head, Stoneclaw, or anything, but
yeah, why don't you?
I don't ever say nice things about V, and I don't want him to think that that's like a normal thing. So that's it. Did you guys have anything to add? I think we got through everything I had written down, which is rare. We hit it before the 11 o'clock mark, so that's pretty tight. V, did you have anything that you wanted to add? Otherwise, go ahead and chill and do whatever you got to do.
Yeah, no, I mean, thanks for coming out, guys. Thanks for watching the show. Tune in next week for another episode. Don't forget to add us on all the social media and the Twitter, and follow us on Twitter, and whatever else you think we have that you can follow us. And don't forget, we have shirts and shower curtains.
That shower curtain's gonna sell eventually, doggone it.
You had me at Bigfoot comforter so that you can sleep with the "you had me at Bigfoot" symbol next to your face. And thanks everybody again for coming out. Yeah, that's what I got, man. I don't know if I missed anything, but
no, I think you got it, V. Very good. Good closing.
Yeah. Thanks,
Stoneclaw, what? See, now I got to say nice things about you, because I was talking up Stoneclaw here. So Stoneclaw, what do you got? Do you have anything you wanted to add, or you go ahead and shill your stuff?
Yeah, I'll show my stuff. I just gotta say, it's funny that you're selling shower curtains, branded shower curtains, because on my merch store, I have small package COVID masks, so I had to get in on that racket. You can find me, mostly my two main shows are Paranormies on paranormies.com, and then Small Package Podcast on ExodusAmericanus.com. I occasionally appear on Skinwalker Tapes. I don't know. It's if I'm around, I just show up on their show uninvited. Mostly, if you want to see what I'm doing, just find me on Twitter. That's my only real social media I have, is Stoneclaw316 on Twitter. Oh yeah, the YouTube, the creepypasta YouTube. If you're into the spooky stuff, Bradshaw's Creepy Compendium on YouTube.
All right, so yeah, V, Stoneclaw, thank you, V. I would say thank you for being here, but you're here every week, and I appreciate you being here every week. Stoneclaw, thank you for coming out today. Thank you for hanging out with us. It's always fun. We talk about this every once in a while, how it's fun to have somebody else on the show to just add to our shenanigans. And
great talking about fart for an hour.
You know what? And Mike's yelling at me in the chat saying 2 shots next week. That's not true. I took a shot earlier. Mike, you just got to rewind. And then also Megabit has an answer to the people who, if you're afraid of the aliens reading your mind, you just have to wear your tinfoil hat, which I think would be funny. Because if you can imagine trying to talk to the alderman with a tinfoil hat on, and I'm imagining like the hilarious ones where it's like lazily made, where you just kind of wrap it around and then tie it off at the top.
Yeah.
And yeah, like on cartoons like Fry on Futurama, and like them trying to talk to you and like, is that a traditional hat that you guys wear? I've been watching Earth for like 100 years and I've never seen anyone. I've only seen crazy people wear hats like that. You must be a crazy person. But they actually do, and I'm going to shill somebody else's stuff. They actually do sell tinfoil like beanies that you can wear. That actually.
Oh God! I was just thinking about getting in on that racket.
Yeah, so you should definitely like look into that. And I mean, if you make one and it's got a logo and shit on it, I'll definitely wear that too. I haven't bought one of these. My wife was joking about getting me one of the tinfoil beanies because I'm always talking about these conspiracies and shit, which end up becoming true or whatever.
Right.
But yeah. Yeah, I had a blast. I thought today was pretty funny. I think if you haven't already, follow Stoneclaw316 on Twitter. If you haven't already, definitely follow VV_Weenus, 2 E's. And if not, if you haven't already, follow You Had Me Podcast on Twitter. We love to chat with you guys on there throughout the week. I do a lot of bad political takes, and I insult celebrities and blue check marks as much as possible. And occasionally I say something funny from that account. And if you send us stuff, I mean, we've actually got 5 shows lined up for the upcoming weeks because people have been sending us recommendations, making recommendations to us. And so if you send shit to us, you have absolutely have the chance of becoming the next Jake Hoob series. And Jake Hoob, we still have your format for creating Jake Hoob episodes. So if you guys send us shit and we think we can stretch it out to 2 hours, we absolutely will. And we certainly appreciate you guys coming out. Had a lot of fun. Tell your friends, tune, and let them know tomorrow the final copy of this episode will be released without the 30-minute intro and all the copyright strikes and shit. We'll see you guys next week. And until then, I'll be like Matt Squatch. Until then, stay out of the woods, except for stay out of the fucking reach of the Galactic Federation.
Oh, and time travel makes you gay.
That too.
Gotta get that.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.